Hangman Adam Page defeats Kyle Fletcher and is set to face Will Ospreay in the finals of the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament at AEW Double or Nothing. Mercedes Moné confronts AEW Women's World Champion Timeless Toni Storm on Dynamite last night. A steel cage match stipulation has been added to the AEW World Championship bout at Dynamite Beach Break. Ric Flair addresses his recent absence from AEW television. A former Stardom star looks set to join AEW. The main event for AEW All-In Texas reportedly is being kept quiet internally. Kenny Omega has his say on the shocking departure of Tetsuya Naito from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Sky Blue was reportedly backstage at Dynamite last night. Nick Comoroto returns to in-ring action on Wednesday's edition of Dynamite. Malachi Black, now known as Aleister Black in WWE, says he pitched to face Will Ospreay in AEW. Randy Orton vs. John Cena is being billed at Backlash as one last time. And several matches and segments have been confirmed for Saturday's edition of AEW Collision on TBS. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Before we get into today's stories, you can see right there, we're just 10 subscribers away from 21,400 on the road to 25,000 subscribers. The goal this year was to hit 20k. We did that in April, so we're now on the road to 25. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and join the ever-expanding WNU. In addition to that, you can join the WN365 roster. Links in the video description. You can scan the QR code when it appears on the sidebar. Whilst you're looking at that sidebar as well, you can see all upcoming watch-alongs and post-shows we'll have live here on the channel for the month of May, including Backlash on May 10th, also AEW Double or Nothing on May 25th. Let's get straight in to Dynamite last night, and we now know what the finals will be of the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament at AEW Double or Nothing. Hangman Page is headed to Phoenix. The April 30th edition of AEW Dynamite was headlined with the final semi-final match in the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament as Hangman Adam Page faced off against Kyle Fletcher. In the closing stretch of the match, Fletcher scored a near fall over Page after kicking him in the groin and driving him into the mat with a brainbuster. Moments later, Page hit Fletcher with a buckshot lariat from the corner. Then Page followed it up with a standard buckshot lariat to defeat Fletcher via pinfall. With this victory, Page will be moving on to AEW Double or Nothing to face Will Ospreay in the finals of the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Of course, as mentioned, that pay-per-view is coming up later on this month. Now, speaking of the women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament, possibly we have an indication who's set to win the whole thing. AEW seemingly isn't big enough for two top women, according to AEW TBS champion Mercedes Moné. Despite having to face Jamie Hayter in the finals of the Women's Owen Hart Cup at AEW Double or Nothing, Moné made it clear she's keeping an eye on the AEW Women's World Champion. On Dynamite, Toni Storm defeated Miyu Yamashita in an AEW Women's World Title Eliminator match. Afterwards, the New Japan Strong Women's Champion and Queen of Southside Champion came out to address the AEW Women's World Champion and tell her she was coming to add AEW's top women's title to her collection after she defeats Hayter at AEW Double or Nothing. Hayter then appeared to attack Moné, reminding her to keep her eye on Hayter as well. Hayter and Moné will face off on May 25th at the pay-per-view, with the winner facing Timeless Toni Storm at AEW All-In Texas in July. As it stands, Moné has yet to be defeated since winning the AEW TBS Championship at last year's Double or Nothing event. The event will also host the finals of the men's Owen Hart Cup, as I mentioned, between Hangman and Will Ospreay. Now, a big stipulation has been added to an upcoming AEW World Championship match. It's going to be Mox versus Joe inside of a steel cage. On the April 30th edition of AEW Dynamite, the Ops, that being Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, and Powerhouse Hobbs, defended their AEW World Trio Championships against a trio of local talent. After the conclusion of the match, the Death Riders attacked the champions from behind, leaving Samoa Joe enraged. After the dust settled, Joe threw out a big challenge for AEW Dynamite Beach Break, revealing he wants his AEW World Championship match with Jon Moxley to be inside of a steel cage. The match was later confirmed, as you can see on the screen right there with the graphic, so indeed it is going to be Mox versus Joe for the AEW World Championship inside of a steel cage in 2 weeks' time. Now, a bit of an update here when it comes to Ric Flair and his AEW status. Now, WWE Hall of Famer Ric Flair was a controversial presence on AEW television for a while as a present from AEW President Tony Khan to the retiring Sting. However, the wrestler and Woo Energy salesman quickly vanished from programming. In a new interview from the Masters class, Flair said it came down to his health. He said, quote, "The reason I'm not on TV now is Tony didn't know I was on blood thinners. That's why," Flair explained. "At Sting's last match, I had already made a blade. I was ready to go. He said, no, I made blades for all the guys in the old days." According according to Flair, blading is an integral part of what he does at any age. Flair even said it was a shortcut for getting a good match out of some less than exciting opponents. He said, quote, "If I couldn't cut myself, we weren't going to make it through the match," Flair chuckled. "You try wrestling Rufus R. Jones for an hour, that's a long hour Broadway." Now, Flair has retired since 2022 when he wrestled the highly divisive Ric Flair's last match, which saw him wearing a pacemaker team with Andrade against Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Flair passed out in the middle of the match and said he wished he had the choice to redo the match. Flair not only entered the energy drink business with his Woo Energy drinks, but also teamed up with boxing legend Mike Tyson to launch a cannabis brand in the States where recreational and medicinal marijuana is legal. Now, a big signing could be on the way to All Elite Wrestling. Thekla is now done with Stardom after 3 years in the company. Fightful Select have confirmed Thekla's agreement with Stardom has expired, and Fightful can also confirm that she is effectively headed to the United States. Those that Fightful have spoken to claim that her move to the US has been planned for quite a while. When Fightful had asked about WWE sources about the star, among other talent that made the name in Japan, around the time of Julia signing, Fightful were told they had her eye on her. There was also heavy All Elite Wrestling interest towards the end of 2024. In addition to a number of independent companies, they reached out to Fightful, inquiring if she was taking any upcoming bookings. Those that Fightful spoke to within AEW believe she is headed to the company. Of course, if we get any more details on that, we'll let you know in a future video. Now, just what is going to be the main event of AEW All-In Texas later on this year. AEW's All-In Texas is less than 3 months away, with many matches still in question. One of the top matches, naturally, will be the AEW World Championship bout. As of now, the winner of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament will take on the AEW World Champion. That won't be determined until Double or Nothing, but it's also being kept quiet internally. Fightful Select say they spoke with a number of sources that were told that both the winner of the Owen Hart tournament, as well as the main event and the world title match at All In, are being closely guarded. Fightful haven't heard if that's because the decision has not yet been made or if things are just being kept quiet. One thing we do know that as of right now is going to consist of either Jon Moxley or Samoa Joe possibly, but as of right now, Jon Moxley, the AEW World Champion, defending the championship against either Hangman Adam Page or Will Ospreay in the main event of AEW All-In Texas. Now, a big story recently was the departure from New Japan Pro Wrestling of Tetsuya Naito. Back on April 1st, 2025, Tokyo Sports announced that former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Tetsuya Naito was working with New Japan Pro Wrestling without a contract. Given that news came out on April Fool's Day, not many took it seriously, but that all changed a few weeks later when New Japan themselves confirmed that Naito, as well as his stablemate Bushi, would be leaving the company in the near future. It was news that shocked the Japanese wrestling landscape to its core, surprising everyone, including one of Naito's former rivals, current AEW star Kenny Omega, who spoke about Naito's departure on a recent Twitch stream. He said, quote, "Yeah, very odd. Odd as in, I didn't hear anything about it. It just kind of came out of nowhere. Not that Naito and I keep in touch or anything like that, or let us know what we're thinking or how things are going, but yeah, sometimes you hear a little bit of rumbling and like murmurs or whispers, while only crossing paths primarily in tag team bouts during their time in New Japan. Omega and Naito's trilogy of G1 Climax matches between 2016 and 2018, including the tournament final in 2017, are heralded as some of the greatest matches in New Japan Pro Wrestling history." As for why Naito decided to leave New Japan, Dave Meltzer reported that money might have been the biggest stumbling block between the two parties, but given that the company themselves have stated they are on good terms with their former world champion, it is likely that Naito will one day reappear in New Japan when the time is right. However, once Night 2 of Wrestling Dontaku on May 4th is over, Naito will be a full-time freelancer for the first time in his career. Now, an injured AEW star was backstage last night at Dynamite. Sky Blue reportedly was present at this week's AEW Dynamite taping in Norfolk. Sources have told Fightful Select. Fightful have been told she's actually been backstage at numerous TV tapings as of late. Fightful have also been told she was at tapings as far back as Cincinnati. The 25-year-old has been out of action since July 2024 after suffering a broken ankle in a collision match with Hikaru Shida. It is currently unknown if Blue is nearing a return to the ring or if she was just visiting. Of course, as I mentioned, this past week's Dynamite featured an Owen Hart Foundation tournament semi-final match between Hangman Page and Blue's boyfriend, Kyle Fletcher. It should be noted that AEW will return to the area of Blue's hometown, Chicago, on May 14th for AEW Dynamite and Collision Beach Break. AEW had long targeted May as a possible clearance date for the wrestler. Speaking of returns to the ring, an update here when it comes to Nick Comoroto reportedly being back in an AEW ring. He returned last night on Wednesday's Dynamite. Comoroto teamed with Rhett Titus and Miles Hawkins in a trios match against the Ops, Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata and Powerhouse Hobbs. Of course, the Ops were victorious in the bout. This was Comoroto's first match since August of 2024. On August 23rd, Comoroto announced he was undergoing hip resurfacing, saying he had been wrestling on one leg for nearly 2 years. Now, of course, Aleister Black is back in WWE. The former Malachi Black in AEW has revealed that he wanted to match with Will Ospreay during his time in All Elite Wrestling. During his time in AEW, Aleister Black would meet with former friends and foes, kicking off with a feud with Cody Rhodes and ending with feuds with the likes of Cope and matches with the likes of Adam Cole. While speaking to Wrestling the Rap Game in an interview before his AEW exit, Black revealed that he pitched about with Ospreay in AEW. Quote, "The Ospreay match is something that I actually pitched a couple of times. We had such a good chemistry back then. We had some absolute barn burners. It's also because I'm a bit of a calculus for him because I forced him to do different things with his wrestling. When we did wrestle, I would work his leg. Now you can't fly. What are you going to do?" I have a good relationship with Will. I remember sitting in his dad's car and his dad was driving us from show A to show B. And I remember him saying, "You're going to be a big star. You're going to be a really big star." At the time, the goal was Dragon Gate. I said to him, "That's easy. That's a matter of time." His road went the way it went, but now he's one of the biggest stars in professional wrestling. Of course, Ospreay is in the finals of the Owen Hart Cup. He's set to face Hangman Adam Page at AEW Double or Nothing. Now, the main event for WWE Backlash has been confirmed, and WWE have begun to advertise Randy Orton versus John Cena as one last time. Since the Raw after WrestleMania 41, Randy Orton and John Cena have featured in several segments together, with Cena taking an RKO on the Raw after WrestleMania, as well as the SmackDown after WrestleMania. The two men are currently scheduled to face off for the WWE Championship at Backlash in Orton's hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. WWE have also begun to advertise the bout with its own tagline of "One Last Time." This will be the first time the two men have met one-on-one in the ring since 2017. And finally, several matches and segments have been confirmed for Saturday's edition of AEW Collision, which is not on TNT, it's on TBS. First, Timeless Toni Storm will once again be in action, competing against Lady Frost in an AEW Women's World Championship Eliminator match. If Frost pulls out the victory, she'll earn a shot at Storm's AEW Women's World title. Also, Brody King will take on newest AEW signing Josh Alexander in a singles contest. But there you go, guys, the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As you can see right there, we're at 21,390 subscribers, 10 away from 21,400. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Join the ever-expanding WNU. In addition, you can join the WN365 roster. Links in the video description. You can also scan the QR code when it appears on the sidebar. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.